Hey, lovelies. Esther here with an update for the Fall 2022 Mindful Tarot Drop 'em 78 Challenge. This challenge where we go through, we commit ourselves, despite my own polyamorous tarot ways, we commit ourselves to one deck for 2.5 weeks. Actually, many of us are using a calibration deck, so a deck alongside our challenge deck to help us kind of refine our understanding of the cards. But we go through the deck one card at a time, one day at a time, starting with the Pentacles, then moving through into the Wands, then into the Cups, and then the Swords, and then following that immersion in the four elements, we make our way into exploring the question of manifestation with the majors. So drop 'em 78, dropping anchors with the Pentacles, responding with the Wands, that suit of fire and engagement and encounter, how we meet and respond to the world. Then opening with the Cups, that suit of emotion, relationality, soul, spirit, and then piercing through with the Swords, that suit of mind, of air, of understanding, of incisive insight, and then manifesting with the majors. That's where that acronym Drop 'em 78 comes from, in case you're wondering. Okay, so we've just finished the Pentacles, and apologies if this video is a little bit choppy. I'm about to flip into a PowerPoint, and so I'm recording on Zoom, and it's a little bit wonky. I'm so grateful, by the way, for your patience with my poor technology. In some universe, perhaps a universe like this, our universe, in the not so distant future, I will have better tech support. But for now, I'm just winging it. Okay, we just finished the Pentacles, the suit of Earth. And I wanted to share my cards for the suit of Pentacles. I'm working with the Lonely Dreamer Tarot, Melissa Weatherspoon's incredibly, wonderfully designed, beautiful, delicate, brilliant collage deck, working with the early 20th century artist Odilon Redon. He was sort of a precursor to the Surrealists. Anyway, his artwork, her design. I'm working with the second edition. They're like I think 6, maybe 8 different cards in that second edition. One of them is the Ace of Pentacles. She made some changes. So what is the suit of Pentacles? It is the suit of Earth, the suit of embodiment, the suit of temporal process of the natural world. It is the suit of this life here and now, and all of the ways in which this life, which I think is bound up in my little body, is interconnected with all life, right? It is the suit of grounding, literally the ground. Like, what is it that keeps us going moment to moment? And that Ace of Pentacles, right? Like all the aces, the ace shows us where it starts, and it shows us the gift of this suit. So I made this photograph as I was sitting in which airport was I in? Some airport, Seattle Airport, I think, on my way to Rhinebeck, New York, upstate New York, to dive into collaborative work with Robert M. Place, with the amazing visionary scholar and artist. And Bob and I were doing a workshop on Buddhism and tarot. And I was sitting there so filled with a sense of life's possibilities and abundance, with my croissant and a cup of coffee, and on the road, how it all begins, this sense of connection with what is all around us, and with with bounty we might receive. And what is this gift of Earth? Really the gift of life. In many ways, the suit of Pentacles unfolds the question of how we take care of this gift of life, this gift of Earth. How do we take care of it? What does it mean to be an individual, to be a self? What is mine in this gift of life? What actually is only mine insofar as it is also given to others? The suit explores that relationship, as actually the tarot as a whole does, between self and other, right? And it explores it in very precise ways, the suit of Pentacles does, in terms of embodiment, work, resource, wealth, gift and receiving, right? Giving and receiving. So there I was in the airport having my coffee and my croissant. And then day two, this Two of Pentacles, right? A card that is all about balance. But this beautiful image with the angel holding the two pentacles aloft. So Melissa Weatherspoon's beautiful collaging, echoing that lemniscate, that figure eight in the Marseille tradition. My calibration deck, the deck I'm using as a kind of clarifier deck, the deck that is sort of an anchor that helps me dive more deeply into the card at hand for any given day, is the Jean Dodal Tarot, as restored by the wonderful folks at Artisan Tarot. So that, and what I found myself wanting to do is both to compare the Dodal Tarot day by day, Two of Pentacles with Two of Pentacles, and then also to pull a card for the day, a kind of clarifying card. And in this case, it was that fabulous Empress, right? She's looking kind of off screen. You know, what the gift of Earth emerges as in the Two of Pentacles is a kind of offering. You know, what has been entrusted to us with this life, and how do we offer it up? How do we balance giving and receiving, the very energy of life? The Three of Pentacles tells us that this balancing is about work, right? The classic Waite-Smith imagery of the master builder in the cathedral is echoed here in Melissa's choices from the Redon imagery. And what, you know, I was working with this card on the day that my workshop with Bob Place was literally beginning. I was thinking, you know, all work we do, we think of it as like the work that I'm doing with my body, heart, and mind, but all work is collaborative. We're never in it alone. So, you know, that image in that card of this solitary, lonely dreamer thinking, very pensive, but whatever that work of my mind, which is so big in my head, right? It's like, this is me and I'm putting it forward. There's always the world around me that's receiving it. So I may be stuck inside my individual sense of self. But, you know, in so many ways, right? There's a world outside of me that is engaged in what I'm doing. So that sense of how we plant the seed of our own work, of our own sense of self, how we plant it in community. Three of Pentacles, Three of Discs. And I drew the Empress for a second day in a row. But she was reversed, which was kind of extraordinary. So I went from Empress in day 2 to Empress in day 3, just to like hone this issue of what it means to be in that world of threes, which is always about community and how the self, that single solitary disc, that single solitary self, how it fits into the world at large. And in the Four of Pentacles, we start to see like what's problematic, why it is that the self has a hard time fitting into community, why collaboration is hard, why it's hard to work with others, to harmonize with others. In this beautiful image from Redon's paintings, this image of this delicate figure holding ever so gently, holding that fourth pentacle, and that way in which we want to safeguard our stuff, our life, ourself, our precious energies, right? But that Three of Swords that I drew that day kind of reminded me that I have to pierce through, you know, the swords are all about selfhood and individual strength and assertion. And, you know, I need to pierce through my own kind of tender, fragile tendency to hold on too tightly. The Four of Pentacles reminds us of the ways that we want to kind of shore up the tenderness of this life. We want to safeguard it. I think that Dodal image of the four is so, you know, this is classic Tarot de Marseille, but that way in which the four gives us that shield. In a lot of ways, that shield reminds me of the shield that the Empress is holding. You know, that shield, which maybe is the sovereignty of the self. Like, I want to safeguard myself. I want to hold myself in. The Three of Swords is like, nope, pierce through, break through this. And in fact, in the Five, the breaking through happens, it happens in a sense of inside outside, a sense of the ways in which anything that is held within uh, is creates a sense of separation, a kind of discomfort. And if you think about the ways in which the Five of Pentacles is in the Waite-Smith imagery, this kind of card of poverty and impoverishment, a sense of being left out in the cold while there's that inner space that's so delightful. I think that in the Redon imagery that Melissa Weatherspoon's used, we see how this sense of an inside lit up space that we're cut off from, how that might be like the natural conclusion from a kind of tendency for us to try to hold on to our own work, our own achievement in a universe where my life is completely inextricably bound up with yours, with community. Self and community are joined. And I love that I was continuing here to have more swords. You know, it's sort of like using the capacity of mind and understanding to grok, to understand, to comprehend this movement of life and self and earth and groundedness in the Pentacles. And then there's the Six. This is kind of hard to look at, I guess, because the image is sort of sideways. But one of the things I love about this Six of Pentacles, you know, the balance of giving and receiving that the Six gives us. And in many ways, you know, that's the movement from fives to sixes in the tarot. The five is always like that quintessence, that fifth element that comes in like a thumb and like turns something that might have been a very solid, static form into something alive and dynamic and perhaps a little bit conflictual, right? The five brings in an element that makes things have hierarchy and height and inside, outside, this versus that. It's, you know, the five is the card of the Hierophant, right? Or the 10 plus 5 in the major arcana of the Devil, you know, a sense of power, of above and below. And we move from that perhaps conflictual fiveness into the balance that is 6, 3 plus 3, that Tiferet in the imagery of the Sephirot in Kabbalah, the beauty that at the very center of the two columns in the tree of life. So the 6, right? This imagery of giving and receiving in balance, which may not be a perfect balance. I mean, here we see her head is lower than his, right? There might be a sense of hierarchy, certainly in the Waite-Smith imagery, the traditional imagery of the nobleman with the two beggars holding the scale up. You know, who receives, who doesn't receive. Giving and receiving, it's hard to balance them in this world because there are givers and there are takers, it seems, right? It's hard to see the fluidity of life. What I love about the Redon image, however, is this this kind of opening, this halo, this open spaciousness above her head, like this vantage up into the heavens, and then the way that this pentacle is literally between them, like a thought, like a word, like a kiss hanging in the air between them, and that sense of the in-betweenness in the Tarot de Marseille, we see how the balance between 3 and 3 of the 6, there is that flourish in the middle, where giving and receiving come together. And again, another sword, right? I kept having all of this swordsiness in my kind of clarifying card for the day. Yeah, there's a lot to say about that, but moving along to the 7, this is another one of the cards that shifts in between the first edition of The Lonely Dreamer and the second edition. I really love the imagery in this second edition, just the sweetness and tenderness of this card, the way in which the flowers that are outside are also inside, the sense of lightness. I get a cup here. It's reversed, so it's a little bit blocked, but that sense of abundance, that sense of harvest, of something emerging. We've kind of broken through, it seems like, in the Suit of Pentacles. We've broken through that was Opal. We'll come back to Opal in a second. We've broken through the tension a little bit between self and other into this kind of space of expectancy, where what's outside is also what's inside, where the harvest out there has come into a sense of my own abundance. It's almost like going back to my imagery at the beginning of my Drop 'em 78. It's like I've eaten the croissant, I've drunk the coffee, it's now in me. What's the bounty out there is now the bounty inside. So something is being crossed over in this movement of the suit of Earth and the Pentacles. And then we get to the 8. And what I love here about the 8, if you think about the 8 of Pentacles in the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith imagery, there's that sense of work. And here, the work, he's holding a book, and he's got a halo around him. He's looking up at the Pentacles, and the book is casting light up. So for me, this is so profoundly an image that is saying or showing the ways in which the natural process, the work of the world, the work that is also the work of my hands, is illuminating outward. So that harvest that we saw entering into the figure in the 7 is now a kind of luminosity that is emerging upwards in the 8. This card, the charm that because I've been pulling these charms every day. The charm that I pulled for the day was the star. This card was the card that was assigned for the day that I was coming home from my Omega workshop. And it was a very, very long trip home. And I finally got home, and my dog Opal was just like, "You're here, but who are you? I've forgotten you." And there's that reminder with the 8s. That's something, the 8s are so much throughout tarot, or so much a suit of manifestation of what the light that is in all things becoming clear, entering into form so that we can appreciate it. So, the way in which the work of the hands manifests an object, and yet when something becomes clear and apparent, there's often a sense of sacrifice, and the 8s in tarot very much can have that quality of what gets left behind, of what remains in shadow. If you think about in the major arcana, the 10 plus 8 that is the moon, this sense of something is luminous, but then something is also in shadow. Or if you think about the classic 8 of Cups, that pilgrimage card that we're moving into our committed destiny, but something is left behind. And so, coming home was so much about this kind of fruition. But then Opal's face reminded me of some of the costs of the journey. She's, "Who are you, Mom?" Yeah. And maybe she was wondering what those cards were all about and if she could eat them. And then we're in the 9, where something has been completed. The 9s in tarot are so much about culmination and completion. And I love the way in which this 9 of Pentacles echoes the 8. So you've got the discs of the 8 that he's looking up at, and the discs in the 9, which she's sort of looking down. They've now created the beautiful flourishing walls of the garden, where the self and all of its vulnerability can reside. 9s complete the energy of the suit, but they do so in a way that is very much consolidated in self. And so what was worrying to me a little bit about the 9 of Pentacles, what's always been worrying to me is, how does the lady get out of the garden? How do we transcend that moment of rest to really yield up the energy of the suit to the beyond? And in the Lonely Dreamer Tarot, this 10 of Pentacles is rather mysterious in the way that it reflects a kind of relationship between inside and outside. It's, I'm looking for Oh, I can't find my little guidebook for the deck. Um, but it's a tricky card. And what helped me make sense of it was actually pulling a card from Melissa Weatherspoon's companion oracle deck, the Oracle d'Or, which uses Redon's his noir, his sketches that are mostly in black and in non-colorful tones, sort of earth tones. Um, using those cards as an oracle deck to kind of clarify. And the card I pulled was Orpheus. The thing about Orpheus is that Orpheus, gets dismembered in one of the stories about Orpheus. He gets dismembered at the end of his life by the Bacchae in they're the kind of women followers of Dionysus, and they pull him apart in this frenzy, and he's completely dismembered. And yet the disembodied head is still singing. And there's a way in which that image of Orpheus stuck in his lyre and music still ushering forth, it's an image of the ways in which my song is now not just in my body, but it's dispersed through, it's not just coming from my mouth, it's not just coming from my brain, it's dispersed through my whole body. It's in fact dispersed through all of creation. And so that energy that I think of as my energy, that energy of life and vitality, the energy of nature, the energy of the flourishing that has been related to my work, my own work, that in the Ten of Pentacles now transcends this narrow sense of myself. And I started to read the bars on the window here to suggest that, this sense that there's me and there's the world and there's the fruition that I either receive from the world or give to the world, that actually in the Ten of Pentacles, what we're now drawing attention to is the way in which there is a connection, a web, these lines that form a kind of grid, or the filigrees in the Marseille deck that interconnects like the net of Indra in Hindu and Buddhist mythology, that net that has infinite jewels reflecting infinite jewels, how we're all interconnected. And so what I thought of as mine is now dispersed through all creation. I am embraced in life itself. And, then this plays out, the same energy of the Pentacles plays out in the movement from the Page of Pentacles through to the Knight, the Queen, and the King, each of whom are figures of how we take care of this resource of life that is both ours and not ours, this movement from the gift of life that's in my heart, so close at hand to me for the Page, Earth of Earth, which then becomes, the Knight who is the guardian of the earth, through to the Queen who nourishes it. And I love the ways in which this image of needlepoint in the Redon deck, in Melissa Weatherspoon's Lonely Dreamer deck, how that just, how eye and hand and the ways in which the functionality of Page and Knight kind of come together in this nourishing holding of the roundness of the suit in the Queen. And then here in the King, this is perhaps my favorite ever King of Pentacles, just this tenderness with which the King completely holds that gift of earth, that pentacle that we saw in the very first card. So what has been realized now in the four court figures is this movement from my first encounter in the heart with the gift that is life, my stewardship of it, my nourishing of it, and now my complete embracing and protecting, engaging with it in the King. So Page, Knight, Queen, King, what I found myself saying, with the suit of Pentacles, my last words about it. I just want to read what I wrote. There's something here in the suit of Pentacles, the suit of Earth, something about the lightness and heaviness of being, of life. In my branch of Buddhism, we talk about the Bodhisattva ideal. Bodhisattvas are like the saints who put the liberation of others above their own liberation, realizing that we are all here together and I can't save myself without saving the whole world. In my branch of Buddhism, I wrote, we talk about the Bodhisattva idea, what it means to recognize our own wise and awakened hearts. By seeing how this wise and awakened heart is the heart we share with everyone. We are all beings of awakening. Together, we all embody this great heart of an awakened life. How do we care for this life of ours? And with that king, we see the ways in which the caring is manifest in that final court figure. All right. I hope this makes sense. I hope it's useful. I encourage, if you're doing the Drop 'em 78 challenge, I encourage you to, after we finish one of the suits, to go through all of your entries and kind of think, what's being said here? What's the story of this suit? What is the energy of the suit and how is it played out? If you're not doing the Drop 'em 78 challenge, it's not too late to start. Just dive in, either dive in right with the Pentacles or join us where we are. You can find us on Facebook, Mindful Tarot. You can drop me an email. My email address is below. Join the community. Look at what other people are saying. It's just a chance to get to know a particular deck or the archetypes of the cards in general really well. And it's just a lot of fun. Okay. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for your patience with the wonkiness of this video. And as always, thank you so much for your practice. Take good care.